Eric Darling here with Darling Data, and we have a fun video. Today we're going to talk about locking hints in transactions. I was working with a client recently, and we were talking about various ways to handle concurrency with the transactions that might have to sort of deal with each other in kind of funny ways. And when I started showing them locking hints, they were like, "But wait a minute. If we start a transaction and we have a select query with these locking hints, isn't it going to block the thing we're trying to do afterwards?" And it's like, no, it's magic. And I'm going to show you that same magic here today. Down in the video description, you can find all sorts of helpful links where you can hire me for consulting, buy my training, support this channel, ask me office hours questions, and of course, there are all sorts of things that you can do aside from that, aside from monetary exchanges, like subscribe and tell a friend, and then more people show up, and I don't know, maybe one of them will do one of the other things. Wouldn't that be grand? It'd be just wonderful. Leaving the house, going various places. Well, at least they're closer than Seattle. Data Tune Nashville, March 6th and 7th of 2026, and of course Data Saturday Chicago, March 13th and 14th of 2026. I'll be doing pre-cons at both of those, so buy your tickets now. Make me feel like a cool person who's sold all sorts of seats and stuff, and I can say, hey, look what a good job I did marketing this thing. You can buy tickets somewhere around those links that are in the PowerPoint thing there. DataTuneConf and datasaturdaychicago.com. So I assume those are valid working links because I copied them from a very trustworthy web browser, internet browser. So anyway, let's go talk about locking hints and stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple table and I'm going to stick 5 rows in it. And what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about transactions and whatnot. So because SQL Server does not have a select for update clause, when we want to select a row that we're going to do stuff with that we don't want anyone else to do stuff with, we have to take some additional steps. Beginning a transaction, declare, having something to hold that value is good. So I'm declaring an integer up there called ID, right? And it's null to begin with. And I'm going to grab row 5. In real life, you would probably have some other logic here, like grab a row that needs work done, right? But for me, ID equals 5 works just fine. And then after that select, there will be an update. What I want to do is just kind of show you that within this transaction, everything works fine, and what kind of queries outside of this transaction would be maybe affected by it. So let's start just by beginning the transaction and setting the ID. So we're just going to run to the select on this one, right? We haven't touched the update. That's kind of annoying. What I hate about this is that even though I've done begin transaction, declare, select, if I try to run, I've paused now. And so if I try to run the update, it's going to be like, well, you have to declare the variable ID. And I'm like, but I did, and I have a transaction open. Why don't you remember that? Anyway, we come over to this window. The types of queries that that is designed to protect against would be competing queries. If this is a process that you're writing where only one person should, or one thing, it doesn't have to be a person, one thread or one worker should only be allowed to work on something at a time. The code outside of that process can access things normally. So I don't even need a no lock hint here. If I just say select from that table, I get all the rows back, because the select with the UPDLOCK, that hasn't taken a lock that competes with a select just trying to read data, right? So if I were trying to update row 5, I of course would not be able to update row 5, but oh sneaky weaky, I could update row 4, right? If I do this and say, hey, go update row, oh wait, I have to cancel that first. Yeah, it was being blocked. That's why I just kept running without saying it did anything. But if I update this for row 4 can go do something, right? So that's nice. But if I were to try to run another select with an UPDLOCK, then this select would be blocked, because the UPDLOCK is wait a minute, I'm trying to UPDLOCK, you can't UPDLOCK too, right? So if I had a where clause on this for where ID equals 4, then let's see, let's do a little experiment together. I didn't plan on this. It just occurred to me while I was doing all this. So if I say row 4, well, that can go and do something, right? So, but like the point is that if I were to try to take, say, row 5 now, right? Because row 5 is the one I'm updating in the other window. If I were to try to do that, now SQL Server is like, wait a minute, row 5 has an UPDLOCK on it. You can't UPDLOCK that row 2, or you can, but you have to wait. Now coming back over here, just for a moment, the hints that I have supplied to this query are UPDLOCK, ROWLOCK, repeatable read, and READPAST. Now, for a lot of processes, the idea of serializable sounds great, right? Because, serializable is quite strict and would prevent all sorts of strange phenomena. But if you want this process to run nice and sort of like concurrently, the READPAST hint is often useful because it basically you want people to be able to like just skip over anything that is currently locked, right? It's not like no lock where you'll read the locked row. READPAST is just like, that locked row is none of my business. I'm just going to move on. I'm going to keep going here. So like if we come over here and we were to try to say all this stuff with the serializable hint, we would get an error that says you can only specify the READPAST lock in a read committed or repeatable read isolation low. So that doesn't do us any good. So, but this query here, this will allow us to read everything but row 5, right? Like if this were a no lock hint, we would get row 5 back with like, I mean, it didn't change anything. So it would just be whatever data is in row 5. This is just the select query at this point. But so like we're just like row 5, you have a lock. We're just not bothering with you, right? You are not consuming any of our effort or energy here. Now, so like really processes like this, and what I want to show you next is just like within the transaction, those locking hints are fine. But also like for processes like this, you really have to consider, I mean, concurrency is obviously the most important thing, because if you want to make something like this multi-threaded, you want to have multiple processes be able to take something and work on it, like, design a queue type situation or design like a worker tables type situation, then these types of locking hints become really important, because you want like every process to be able to go get work freely when it's ready for work, but B, you don't want it double working or overworking something that is either like already in process or something that's already been processed. So like those are the things you want to like make sure you bake into a process like this. If I just hit commit on this transaction just to get rid of stuff, I'll reload the table just so we start clean here. And then I'm going to run this whole thing, but now with the update, right? So now we have the begin transaction, declare an ID, select the thing we want where ID equals 5, and then go update stuff down below. Like this all runs fine. So like within this transaction, the locking hints that we've supplied with the select don't like mess up the update. Like we don't block ourselves in our own transaction. That would be crazy. It would be insane, right? It would just be bonkers. But we're still like, still holding stuff out here. So like now if I try to run this query, now this query does get blocked because that update is doing stuff. If I want this query to do anything useful, I of course have to say with no lock, and now I can see the dirty read down here where I've added 1 day to this, right? So these are all 11:10, but this one's 11:11 because if you remember, the update down here is just adding 1 day to that column. All right, cool. So this would also, of course, block other updates to row 5, row 4, we still get in there. But if we were to try to say like, hey, go mess with row 5, this would get blocked, right? This just drags and drags because row 5 is currently locked in that transaction. Likewise, trying to select row 5 with an UPDLOCK hint would also be prevented, right? Row 4 we can still get at. Oh no, I hit insert. I'm never going to recover. But row 4 we can still get at. Of course, this is still going to throw an error because you can't mix serializable and READPAST. And this thing, of course, would get just not get blocked because we have repeatable read and READPAST. But again, we're just skipping over row 5 because row 5 has a lock on it. And we are just like ignoring any locked rows via the READPAST hint. So, kind of a short video to talk about how processes like this generally work. generally, you know, how to make them nice and concurrent if you want to multi-thread them, and how to make sure that those threads stay sort of within their own lane and don't mess each other up. But yeah, you know, just sort of a little primer for maybe some more videos down the line. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about, and I'm done talking about it. So now I'm going to go do something else. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you learned something. And I will see you in tomorrow's video, where we are going to talk about optimizer rules that we don't have, but well, we're going to talk about one optimizer rule that we're getting soon, that I've talked about before, but you know, I want to talk about optimizer rules that I wish we had, like that one. All right. Anyway, thank you.